Daniel Kalinaki is a seasoned journalist who cut his teeth in journalism at the Daily Monitor, whose DNA is the no-holds-barred style of journalism. For a journalist who has covered the three past elections, the former managing editor was able to witness the unfolding political events in the country from a vantage point.
I've done everything from taking photos, writing about beauty pageants, writing about sport. I did have a humor column. I held several editing positions. I became news editor when I was only 23. And 5 years later, I became managing editor. So my life has pretty much been mostly in the newsroom.
In 2006, Kalinaki was associate editor in charge of elections when Besigye returned from exile, triumphantly to challenge Museveni for the second time.
Graduate from university with supposedly a great future ahead of him in the medical profession, to a guy who is a rebel who's taken arms against the government of the day.
In a poisoned political atmosphere where he was thrust in the crosshairs, Besigye defied the fads and whims thrown at him, garnering 37% of the vote, the highest opposition score.
And you can interrogate them because they are now on record. You can challenge them. You can agree with them, but there is a record.
In 2011, Kalinaki was managing editor at the Daily Monitor when Besigye for the third time tried to snatch the crown of his former boss. Yet even after the three attempts, Besigye remains in the political trenches, and this is what Kalinaki in his book says remains Uganda's unfinished revolution.
What motivated these young people, perhaps our age, some of them were much younger than us, to take arms? What were they fighting for? And why is it that over the years, the things that they claim to have fought for haven't come to fruition? Is it that the premise was wrong?
Kalinaki says, growing up during the advent of the NRM regime, he was able to witness major political events unfold.
The Museveni generation is now getting on. They're coming to the evenings of their lives. And there is a younger generation of Ugandans who I think need to understand these stories and perhaps need to take a more active interest in determining how their country is run.
With a span of 16 years in journalism, Kalinaki, a man of letters, has now joined the elite league of authors.
We need to understand the Museveni generation better to define ourselves our own way rather than to be defined as the Museveni generation. So,
what could be the major point of disagreement between the president and his former Bush war doctor?
So we are talking about rigging political processes that had caused mayhem in our country. And these were the same things that were now happening, unfolding in my own eyes after all our investment and sacrifice that were now happening under the watch of Mr. Museveni.
How do we recorrect? How do we regenerate the national consensus that we need away from the partisanship of NRM, FDC, and so on and so forth, away from the personalization of Museveni, Besigye, and others? How do we generate a national consensus of what it is and what it means to be Ugandan and to belong to this country called Uganda?
Dr. Kizza Besigye, largely perceived as the doyen of opposition politics, says Kalinaki's book is a true account of events involving his political struggle, which began in the jungles of Luwero in 1982.
I think he has done a good job. I hope that at some stage I will write my own book.
He, however, reveals that because the book casts the regime in a bad light, there are attempts to block the public from accessing it.
Buy them off the shelves, and whatever is bought off, so people cannot access it.
I wouldn't be very pleased if you buy the book and use it as a paperweight.
Barely a month after putting it on the market, The book continues to sell like a hot cake across the East African region. Kalinaki says he plans to send a copy to the president.
I hope to live long enough to write about other people. I would, for instance, love to write about President Museveni if he gave me access to his story.
Jingo Francis, NTV Weekend Edition.